Here we go. Sweet. Okay. Welcome, everybody. This is, we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive on brand and product positioning. This will obviously be recorded and go up in the classroom. I do want to make a little plug. The classroom is continuously being updated with all of the trainings that we've done throughout the week. So if you haven't had a chance yet to go into that, I would take some time and look at that. Okay. So let me take a drink. I wrote in the community, I want to know how many of you have any clue like what brand or product positioning is. Like, tell me in the comments, do you know a little bit about it? Do you know a lot about it? You feel really comfortable with the topic, or is this kind of the first time that you're hearing about it? Oops. So a little bit on my story before we get started, because this is why I am so passionate about this topic. There are certain topics within the sales marketing world that I feel very strongly about, and this is one of them. So a little bit of background on me. I have been in the sales and marketing space for the last about 9 years now. And I live in Eastern Virginia near Williamsburg with my husband. We have a cat, we have 3 horses. And my story with entrepreneurship started back when I was working for the corporate world. I worked as a project manager for a corporate communications agency, and I had such bad mental health at that time. What ended up happening was I was getting frequent panic attacks. I got to the point where I couldn't focus at work anymore. I literally, like every single day felt like a struggle for me, to the point that I started just not showing up to work. I took every bit of PTO that I had. I took every bit of FMLA time off that I had available. And at a certain point, I got to the point where I had no other choice but to resign. And so that was when, at that time, luckily, I had been kind of introduced to the online sales and marketing space through social selling, network marketing. And my plan B very quickly became plan A. And I'm so grateful for it because it really taught me a lot of skills that I was able to transfer over to this space. But it wasn't until I was recently married in September that I realized what my time was worth and how much I was putting into it for commission sales, which, not knocking it if that's what you do. I've been there. I also came from the real estate world. I got my real estate license back in 2020, and that was a crazy time with, you know, COVID happening and just the way that the market and interest rates were. So I learned a lot about what it takes to close sales in that aspect as well. But I knew that I wanted my own brand, and I knew that I wanted to have control over the products and services that I sold through it. I wanted to be the one that picked the pricing, that picked the way that it was presented. I didn't want to have to deal with any of the hurdles that traditional product sales come with, things that were way outside of my control. And one of the things that I realized as I moved into this space was there are a lot of people that don't have some of the traditional business owner skill set that comes with owning a business. And if we could teach people how to do that, to run their online based business based on skills rather than based on hype or based on the timing of products, because we know that both of those things can kind of get you to a certain point. You can capitalize on timing of products that are just coming out. You can capitalize on hype and FOMO and, you know, all the momentum around products, but at a certain point, that's only going to get you so far. And you have to really learn the skills to see success long term. And so that is what my passion is when it comes to the reason we started the mentorship. And that's what I hope to show you through this as well. So a little bit on why brand and product positioning. The reason is because we all start at 0. Sorry, just making sure nobody's in the waiting room. I'm like paranoid about it. We're good. We all start at 0. I took this screenshot when I very first started in this space because I needed a online presence that started with my brand. I needed an online presence that I could show people how to do this if they were starting from 0. And every single person, whether it's on your social media, whether it's sales, anything like that, like we all have a starting point. We all start from day one, and you need the ability to really be able to position you, not only yourself as a brand, but the products that you're selling, even when you are just starting out. And so I will be the first to tell you that I am not like a mega influencer in any way. I am still very much learning the social media game. When I was in network marketing, is an e-commerce based physical product business. We had a sales team that was a global sales team all over the world. They did multi 6 figures in sales each year, and we're averaging at the height of it close to 30,000 in sales per month as a team. Through that, I was able to close literally hundreds of sales for that team, and I learned a lot about it. But I did that when I never had any greater than 1,300 followers on social media. Like, I utilized social media every single day for that business and never had tens of thousands of followers like you see some people have. So still very much learning that side of it. The Instagram growth piece is not my skill set, but learning how to position yourself and position your products on social media in a way that you could increase those sales conversions is really my forte. And it's really what has allowed me to see the level of success that I have had without having a massive influence or a massive following. The nice thing about it is if you can learn how to position yourself, if you can learn how to increase your sales conversions through product and brand positioning, as you do grow, you're only going to see more and more conversions back to the things that you really want, whether it's sales or people joining your email list or, whatever it is, right? So just for like full transparency, I was going through the numbers. Since the end of October when I started, I've had almost 13,000 in income. 5,700 of that was from products that I didn't create. And I mentioned that because I think there is a huge value to having an MRR product that allows you to learn and allows you to start earning while you're getting your footing and really starting to create your own products and find out what it is that your audience really needs. If it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't have been able to pay some of the bills that I had. And so I think there is absolutely a huge benefit to having something like that in your store. And it's why when we created the mentorship course that we wanted to make sure that that was a MRR product. 2,800 of that was in low to medium ticket products. And I started that product at $17. It's an audit product that I do all around brand positioning, creating your brand messages, figuring out how to really like strategically create content around your brand and your specific products and target audience and everything. But as that grew and as I gained more testimonials, that product now sells for $60. And it's one that I've been able to scale only to a certain point. And that is because service-based products are always going to take your time. So just know that there is a difference between products that are passive, products that are active, and that's why this community works so well, because it's a way for you to take something that is normally an active product, which is mentorship, and make it passive for you, right? If you never want to apply to train in this community, you don't have to, but you can still take advantage of that and promote it as your own product, right? 2,300 of that was in high ticket products, so course sales that I created, and then 1,900 in miscellaneous services that I promoted. So that has been various things: one-on-one calls, graphic design help, community support help, like admin support, all of that kind of stuff. Just really getting my feet wet in the industry and being able to promote skills that I already had. So lots of different ways that you can do that with a very small following, and I'm going to show you exactly what that means in terms of brand and product positioning. So brand positioning is really about how you are setting yourself apart within the marketplace. It is what will allow your audience to choose you over other brands that are doing the exact same thing. And same thing with your products. It's what will allow them to pick that product over maybe others that are similar, or just gravitate towards that particular product in your store, even among other products that exist in your store. A great analogy that I like to think about is if you walk into a bookstore or a library, there's tons and tons of books on the shelf. They all kind of look the same. You're kind of overwhelmed as far as like, what do I look at? Which one do I pick first? How do I know like where to even start? And a lot of times what bookstores will do is they will open up the book so that it's open on the shelf like this, or it's open with the, what do I want to call this? The title, like showing towards you instead of just the spine, because all the spines kind of look the same. And it draws you immediately to that book, right? Like you have no other choice but to stop and be like, wait, I want to look at that one. And that's kind of what positioning does for you. Out of a sea of a bunch of things that kind of look and feel the same, whether that's brands or whether that's products, this is going to help your audience really hone in on your brand specifically or your product specifically, and why they're going to choose that over anything else. So before we get into the how of that, I want to quickly talk about the foundation that you need before you start doing this. If you don't have this piece right, things are not going to go well for you. So number one is your mindset. In order to adequately position yourself in the market, you have to have the mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. You have to have the mindset that that there's room for you at the table. And when you position yourself against everyone else out there, there is nothing that's going to, adding people again. When you position yourself, it's not going to bump somebody else out of another spot. And same thing, like somebody else being in the industry, selling the exact same product, having the exact same target audience, same niche, all of that kind of stuff is not going to move you out of your space. We have to come at the mindset that we all have a piece of the pie, and that, you know, there isn't that competition. You can't look at it like that. You can't look at it like if somebody's here, it means I can't be here. So having a mindset of abundance, that there's room for you at the table and that you deserve to be here, is kind of the first step to being able to position yourself and your products adequately. The second thing is, don't make assumptions, okay? So every single person in this training has their concept of an ideal audience, like somebody that they would really love to attract to their brand, that would make the absolute perfect client for them. And likely there are brands out there, you may be doing this yourself, that are losing that audience because of the assumptions that you're making. So here's a good example. Let's say that you are the person that sells the handles on mugs, and your audience, your target audience, is all of the people that are drinking really warm drinks like this and burning their hands every single time that they do it. They don't know that there is any other way to live life other than that. That's how they've been doing it. And yes, it's uncomfortable, and yes, it's painful, but every single morning they drink their coffee or they drink their warm drink and they burn their hands because they don't have a handle. They don't even know what a handle is. So that is assumption number one, is don't assume that your ideal audience even knows what the heck that it is that you do or how you can help them, right? They don't know what a handle is, and they have no concept that the things that you talk about in your marketing is for them, because they don't have that awareness yet. So you have to start creating content, and when you position your brand, make sure that you're not skipping that first step of your audience having awareness into what it is that
I'm good. How are you?
I'm gonna mute everybody. So that is absolutely key, right? Like, as we go through this, you can't miss that step, that awareness step of, let's just use digital marketing as an example. There are a lot of people on this call that sell some sort of digital product. There are people in your audience that would make excellent customers for you that have no clue what the words digital marketing means. They have no clue what digital product sales is really all about. And if you are only creating content that talks about those things with the assumption that they have some sort of understanding of what that means, you're going to miss that audience. So before you position yourself, make sure that you understand what the highest level of like awareness or content that you need to create is. And that's the ones at the very, very top of the funnel. It's the widest net that you're going to cast, that ensures that you have those people brought into some sort of an idea of who you are, what you do, what this is, before you can even then sell them on the idea that your brand is better than others in this space, or your product is better than others in this space. You need to make sure that they have the awareness there first. Okay, couple examples, because I'm an example person, and I think that this really helps to understand like how to do it when you can picture real life examples. So how many of you, tell me in the chat, listen to podcasts? I love listening to podcasts. I do it when I go out and I do horse chores, or I'm doing pretty much any sort of chore. I don't like to be alone with my thoughts, so I will put on a podcast. And how many of you have heard ads that pop up on those podcasts? Because almost every single podcast has some sort of sponsored advertisement that they're sharing. So there is a podcast that I was listening to, and you hear a lot of the same products that are advertised across different types of podcasts. And sometimes they are the exact same product, but it's positioned in a way that it is attractive to a totally separate audience than another podcast might position it. So, for example, I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about, I think it was Factor Foods, or one of the like, done for you meals that you can get ordered to your door. And on a marketing podcast, that might be positioned as like, this is what's going to help you save time as a busy entrepreneur, right? Like I'm the kind of person that would skip lunch most days because I'm working through it. I don't have time to sit and like cook myself a nutritious meal. So they positioned it with that in mind, right? When they're talking about it. But if I were on a like workout focused podcast, like fitness focused podcast, they might talk about that as something that helps you like get really nutritious food, and you're getting all of the protein and you have all the macros right, and it's totally positioned in a way that it's the same product, same meal kit, but they're getting it in a totally different way based on that audience, and they're hearing about it in a totally different way based on that audience. Same thing with Stanley Cups. Couldn't actually find a like a royalty-free image of Stanley Cups, so we're just going to pretend that this is a Stanley. But Stanley Cups actually started as like a camping brand, right? They were not positioned at all to be in front of the like millennial mom market. They were like rugged, able to withstand, temperature differences, all of that kind of stuff. And not at all positioned for like the on the go influencer, stylish. If you have this, you're going to be like the most hydrated, beautiful, wonderful, like human being. You've got all your stuff together, type of product, right? And it wasn't until a group of like blogger moms came to Stanley. Stanley almost went under. They weren't selling their product compared to a lot of the other like camping brand thermos type products that were on the market. Um, and the blogger moms were like, look, we think that we can really do something with this. We want to prove it to you. Give us 500 cups. Guarantee you we can sell them out. And they positioned that people wanted, right? Like, let's make it stylish, let's make it aesthetic, let's make it like the thing that's going to make you feel like you have everything put together in your life. It's the on the go cup that you can throw in your car and do your home what is it, school pickup line runs, or take it with you on your morning jog, like anything like that. The outcome was, I want to be a cool, stylish woman that has my life together, looks really good doing it, and by the way, I'm like hydrated and like um living my best life. That's the Stanley brand. And it has nothing to do with all of the benefits of that product, which are like it keeps your drinks cold, and you can take it anywhere and you can drop it and it's not going to break. All of those things that when it was positioned as camping gear to like typically men, right, was like the target audience for that. It's going to look totally different in the market than it is now. Okay. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about when it comes to positioning. So there's two different types of positioning. There is brand positioning and product positioning. When it comes to positioning your brand, you really want to think about how it is that you want to be known. It's not about the products that you sell. It's not about your experience, or it's not about your like income, like the dollar signs next to your name. It's really about what it is that you want people to feel when they come to your page, when they interact with your brand. How do you want to be known? What do you want to be the go-to account for? Think about that, because that is how you're going to start to position yourself. You're not known for helping a specific audience, right? Like if your target audience is moms, you're not going to become known as the go-to account for moms. as easily as you are going to become known for the go-to account for like your authenticity, or how like real and transparent you are, or the go-to account for like some people really love like the no BS kind of talk. Like, we're not sugarcoating it, we're going to tell it exactly like it is. Some people really love that. You could be known as that account. Some people really don't love that. Like, they need you to be sweet and caring and like say it to them gently. And there's whole brands that are based around that. So think about how you want to be known more as how you want people to feel, how you want them to interact on your page, what outcome you want them to walk away from, rather than your audience. The second thing is what you bring to the table. And this can be really hard if you're just starting out and you don't have a good concept of your skill set in this industry. But I really want you to think about all of your previous experience and all of the jobs you've ever done in the past and all of the hard situations that you've ever gone through in life, and how what you've learned from those situations can help you as an entrepreneur and can help you serve others. So I want you to write that down, what you bring to the table. The third thing is what you do differently than other brands in the same space. And this is going to require some market research. You're going to have to go out and see what other brands are doing, especially the ones that are selling the exact same thing that you sell or in the same niche that you are in. The other piece of that is, what do you do that is the same, but how can you do it better? How can you do it differently, maybe? How can you do it in a way that sets you apart? And so an example that I like to use, Jen Rankins and myself, we have the same target audience. Like, our target audience is both online entrepreneurs. What sets her apart is that she teaches you how to build an authentic brand. Everything that she does is about your authenticity and creating from a very authentic place, creating based on you and not something else, right? Like, that's what she teaches you to do. What sets my brand apart is I am all about the communication side of it and strategy in that space. So learning what to say, how to say it, when to say it, and a lot of this, like positioning yourself more from a strategy standpoint. So there are people that are, in the same exact target audience that will gravitate more towards her because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for a way to feel more authentic online. They're going to go to Jen. They're looking for more strategy, more like how to talk about what they're doing. They might come to me, and that's okay. Like, there's room for all of that because different people have different needs. Oops. Okay. So then I want you to also think about what your core values are. If you don't have a lot of like what I would consider resume experience in the industry that you're in, think about what it is that you bring to the table from a value standpoint. So are you really honest? Are you really caring or empathetic? Are you I don't know, drop some values that you have in the chat that you would consider like core values to who you are personally, and ways that you can express that in your brand, because that is what also is really going to help position you against a sea of other people that are doing the exact same thing and help your audience really find you. The last piece of this is I would share more from a standpoint of who you serve or how you serve rather than who you serve. So if you're ever kind of feeling stuck, think about the way that you want to help people instead of who you want to help. and write your content from that standpoint instead of like you're talking to a very specific audience. Yeah, I love these. Nurturing, compassionate. There are totally brands out there. Like we're gonna have Daniel G come in. He is not that. Like you want somebody that's gonna love on you and make you feel good. Daniel G is probably not your guy. Like he is gonna tell you just straight up whether he hurts your feelings or not, because that's the kind of business owner that he is. And so there are people that will gravitate towards that, and then there are also people that really need that nurturing, caring, like loving touch. And so you could be selling the exact same product, but you're going to find a totally different audience based on that. And I'll look at questions at the end too. I think I saw one come through. So positioning products. This is really, if you think about like stocking shelves in a store, you're overwhelmed with a bunch of different products in a store. You can position them on the shelf. You can position them within the store itself. You can position like so many different things to draw people to certain products. Like maybe your sale products are going to be positioned on the end caps of your store. All of that is what we mean in terms of positioning. We're just doing it in a digital way, in the online space, whether that is on your website or whether that is through your content. Even your bio of social media can help to do this as well. But number one, I want you to think about what it is that your audience needs, because you want to frame your product as the solution, and you need to get very good at solving as many different problems as you can with one product as possible. So I might have a guide that teaches people something. I could frame that as a beginner's guide. I could frame it as an intermediate guide. I could frame it as a guide to something really specific that it talks about within that, table of contents, or I could frame it as something that is really broad, more along the lines of the title of the guide. So many different ways that you can do it, but think about and write down all of the different pain points that your target audience has and start to write down how each product that you have solves that need. The second thing is selling the outcome. And you really want to get specific about this. It is not a like beginner's guide to digital marketing. It is a guide to, if your outcome is, let's say, time freedom, it is your guide to helping someone achieve more time freedom. Whatever the outcome that they have, that's how you are going to want to position your product, because people are attracted to vision. They're attracted to what is going to happen for them when they say yes to purchasing your product. And the more you can start to talk about your products in this way, the better positioned your product will be for that person to grab it. So I like to use guides as an example because you need to get really creative about how many different ways you can talk about the same product. So if I have I have a guide, that's my free guide that is on closing sales. I have many different topics within that guide, and I will share about it in all of those different ways. Sometimes it's a guide on how to posture yourself. Sometimes it's a guide on providing social proof. Sometimes it's a guide on just how to close sales. Sometimes it's a guide on creating content. There's so many different ways that I can position that, and it's all going to give them the same outcome, but it just depends on what their need is. So the next piece of that is find the demand that your audience has, and then you can position that product using scarcity to your advantage. So if your audience has a need for a certain thing, you don't just want to be like, hey, I have this and it's like unlimited. You really want to create a sense of urgency, and you can set up like a promo or even just talk about it in a way where it's like, I am running this for the next 3 people, the next 5 people, whatever it is. Stanley did this when they first came out, and that is what created this crazy like sense of urgency around getting the Stanley Cup, because they only had a very limited number, or they only have a limited amount of ones in a certain color, whatever that might be. So use scarcity once you find the demand. Obviously, the demand was not in camping gear for them. The demand was in like the female marketplace. The other piece of it is to sell the benefits of the product, not just the features. So like when you're talking about the Stanley Cups, you're not talking about how thick the walls of it are. You're not talking about the, the way that the lid works. You're not talking about all of those things. You're talking about the benefit that they get from it. Same thing with a digital product. You're not talking like, oh, it's 10,000 pages and 20 hours of content and it, has all of these different topics in it. You're saying this is what you're getting from it. Here's the outcome that it solves. Here's the problems that it solves. Here's what it was able to do for people. That is so much more attractive than just the features of your product. And then the last piece of that is to make it more than a transaction. So create community, create a sense of belonging, or that when they say yes to this, they are a part of a bigger mission, that they are a part of a bigger movement, that they are around other people that want to do the same thing that they're doing, and they have support. When you can do that, you create a sense of FOMO, you create a sense of like in-group, out-group, and people want to be part of that group. People want to be part of the people that are taking steps to achieve whatever their desired outcome is. So the more you can do that, the more you can create a sense of community and belonging around your products, the more people are going to want to be a part of it. Couple different notes on things that can really derail your product positioning, and we're almost done. And I'll take some questions. But pricing can really make or break your positioning. So this goes back to market research. You really want to make sure that you understand what other brands that are selling the same kinds of things are pricing their products at. And you need to strike that balance. Going way too low has the potential to devalue your product. People perceive that as kind of cheap and like wonder what's wrong with it, or maybe it's not worth it. But going way too high, especially when you don't have the social proof to back it, will price out people that maybe would have been interested. So, and they will totally go to a different brand to purchase that product. So striking that balance and really backing your pricing with social proof is one of the great ways to do that. And you can have people take a look at it ahead of time, start pulling testimonials from people that you trust. So many different ways that you can do that, but competitive pricing is one of those things that doesn't matter how well you speak about it, doesn't matter how well you position it within your store, all of those kinds of things. If you have the pricing dramatically wrong, it can really mess up the outcome for you. The other piece of that is store placement. So if you think about like finding something within your store and knowing which one to pick, you need to really position it in kind of the order that you want them to go through the customer journey. So whatever your biggest call to action is, I would put those more towards the front. more towards the top. So if somebody's clicking into your website, they can very easily find what they're looking for. They know exactly what it is, and they're ready to buy it. If you have too many products in your store, if you have too many offers that seem similar price points, similar types of products, that can get very confusing for your audience, and it will lead them to not take any action at all. A confused audience tends to not take action. So this is the other thing that can really derail your positioning. Okay, last thoughts on this. You are unique. There's only one you. The faster that you embrace this, the faster that you start sharing from your own unique perspective and owning it, whatever that is, the more you are going to stand out in a sea of people that are often just copying others. It is about your experience, not your income. You can do this from day one, day zero, and set yourself apart. Set yourself as an authority in a certain thing. And that could be owning the fact that you are a beginner. It could be pulling from past experiences that you've had to position yourself to help people. There are so many of you that are very uniquely positioned to help people in a certain way because of what you've gone through, and nobody else can say that. Nobody else can empathize in the same way. Nobody else can relate in the same way. I would totally use your experience to your advantage. Use your values to your advantage, because it's really going to set you apart. Same thing, it requires intentional storytelling. You have to intentionally position yourself and your products, and that sometimes means being your biggest cheerleader. That sometimes means speaking the loudest about what it is that you bring to the table, and it sometimes means really intentionally crafting the narrative around your products in a way that would be relatable to your target audience. So, for example, if you think about a flashlight, if I'm selling a flashlight, somebody else is selling a flashlight could mean two totally different things to two different people based on their needs. So I might have a store that sells flashlights as like a source of entertainment, because flashlights make really fun shadow puppets, and all of the kids love to use it for their sleepovers. That's what my product is all about. Same product. Some other store might position that as a safety device. So they have an audience that really needs to be able to see in the dark and navigate their way safely. Exact same product, two totally different positioning. The other piece of that is that positions can change. Your product is never just one thing. And the more you pigeonhole that product, the more you pigeonhole your brand, the less flexible and the less ability that you will have to really help a wide group of people. You're going to lose out on sales. It's just that simple. So the more creative you can get about positioning your products based on the needs of different types of people, based on the needs of different situations. So this community, for example, I might position it as a perfect thing for beginners getting into this space because it's a lower price point. It doesn't require a dramatic investment. They're getting a lot of different knowledge and topics from a dynamic group of people in this space, and they have that support. But I might also position it as a next step for people that are looking for high-level leadership and high-level entrepreneurship and want to take their business to the next level. If they are ready to start getting into mentorship themselves, if they want to start training and creating products around that, I might position it as that. I might also position it as a way to access people that are high achieving in this space, and those that have huge price tags that they wouldn't otherwise be able to afford, and as a way for them to provide that to their clients. So there's all different ways that you can position it. It doesn't have to just be for digital marketers. It might be for Etsy shop owners. It might be for, brick and mortar businesses. It might be for network marketers. There's so many different ways that you can position just one product. So always remember that. And then the last thing is that you need to stop using someone else's messaging to dictate how you share. You can change the narrative, create the narrative, position yourself, position your products any way that you want to. And stop using comparison, stop using the messaging that a certain creator of a product has to determine how you share about it. So I want you to infuse some creativity into the way that you share, and really start thinking about how you would position it if you were the one that created the product, or if it is a product that you've created on your own. Don't let the way that other people are talking about similar types of products dictate how it is that you share. You build that based on your brand and how you want to be seen. Okay, that's it. I know it's kind of a lot and it's like a big topic. I want to go through questions real quick. So let me see. I have one in the chat here. It says, what do you think about a face-forward account switching to a themed, cohesive, faceless reels, but still showing up in stories to connect with your audience? Want to be consistent and feel like being able to post the faceless videos would help. Okay, so yes, I really believe that it's no doubt faceless is widely popular. And it's attractive to people because there are a lot of people that want to do this, have an online brand presence, but they don't want to show their face. So I totally get that. I think the best way that you can position yourself against a sea of other faceless accounts, even ones that might be using the same stock images or, like content videos, is to create a personality around that account. So yes, showing up in your stories, creating a community around a common theme or way that you can rally your audience. Finding a way to really infuse a sense of make them feel like they know you without having to show your face. The faceless accounts that are doing that are the ones that I see having the most success. So yes, I think you can, I even have a faceless account that I follow. One of her first pinned posts is the face behind the account, and she shares her story. So storytelling is very relatable to people. The more you can infuse emotion and feeling and a sense of personality behind the account, it doesn't so much matter about what the content looks like. And you may never have to show your face in order to do that, but it's going to come out in the way that you communicate and the way that you help make people feel. So hopefully that answers your question, but yes, totally know that it can be achieved. You're just going to have to make it feel very personal, very authentic. And the more that you can come up with a personality for that account, the better I think it's going to serve you. Any other questions? I know this was a little bit of a long one. Okay, I don't see any more in the chat. If there's one that you have a question, feel free to pop it in the chat, or you can come off mute. And if this was helpful for you, I would love to know. Okay, question. If your target audience isn't digital marketers, what value can you provide in caption? So I look at adding value as many different things. Value could be storytelling. something that would be relatable to your audience. I like to use feel, felt, found. So I know how you feel. I felt the same way too. Here's what I've found as like the outcome or something that they can achieve, right? Or that you've been able to achieve, or that you've seen other people achieve, even if you haven't gotten there yet. The other thing is educational content, I think is really important. So educating about topics that your audience would want to solve. Give them something that they can walk away from, that they can take action on literally from your content without ever purchasing a product. The more you can do that, the more that you are going to build trust with your audience, and the more likely they will be to actually come back to your paid products, whatever that is. Could be a physical product too. And then the last like type of value additive content I would say is like ones that are inspirational or provide some sort of like comedic effect, but done in a way that isn't surface level. Like it, not just like a fluffy quote or something that's kind of like funny and humorous and that's it. Your caption is then going to share like the heart behind it. You can point to a product. It's often story based, so sharing some sort of story around that product, around that topic. And if you have, like if that didn't answer your question, feel free to, I will put my Instagram in the chat, in the module for this video and the text below it. And feel free to message me and I will try to explain it a little bit better. Would you advise to delete all the reels that are on there now and start fresh? Okay. So if how you are serving people has changed, or if your target audience has dramatically changed, then I would say maybe start a new account. But I think there is, you have total permission to pivot and you can still see success. So I use, like, I don't, it's Jennifer Lauren is one of the creators, that is part of this community. She started with teaching people how to declutter their home. That was her thing. And on the exact same page, like if you scroll back far enough, you'll see she's totally pivoted now to a completely different target audience, almost completely different niche, teaching online business owners. So I think it's okay to pivot. Just know that like the algorithm might have to figure that out. Your algorithm is based off of how people interact with your content. So obviously that's going to shift based on the shift in your content. But I think it's totally okay to like have your face on there one day and then start going faceless the next, and then just stay consistent with going faceless. Eventually, no one's going to scroll back far enough to ever see like your original content. Yay, I'm glad you're taking notes. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, one more question. This will be the last one. When that shift happens, how do we get better reach? I stopped posting reels 5 days ago because of it. Okay, you have to just like ride it out. Not posting is not going to like get you over that hump of low engagement, low views, anything like that. The more consistent you can be, the better. And eventually, like it'll work out. Like it's so hard to fight through it, but it also comes down to your engagement too. So how are you communicating with other accounts? Are you doing that in a genuine way? Are people getting into your DMs? Like, are you opening up a way for that to happen? Are you responding to other people's stories? when people come and comment on your stuff, are you then going to their page and actually leaving a meaningful comment on theirs too? Are you following bigger accounts that you think are inspirational to whatever it is that you've then pivoted to? There's so many different like pieces of that, but not posting is definitely not going to get you there. I think the more you can just kind of write it out, stay consistent, especially we see this with newer accounts. Like there will be a point when Instagram starts pushing your stuff out a little bit more because they now see people starting to interact more, and they also view you as like, you know, not a robot or something weird. So I would say, yeah, like you're just gonna have to stick it out, focus on quality content, and let that be your guide, and then also maybe engage a little extra more than you usually do with other accounts, because the more you do that, the more it's going to push your content out to those accounts as well. All right, that's it. There's probably so much more we could share on this topic, but it is officially an hour in, so I don't want to go any more than that. I will get the recording up into the classroom, and we can certainly go deeper on this as we go. So I really appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much. I know that sometimes I articulate things in a way that is like, the words don't always come out the way that I want them to. So if anything was confusing, let me know and I will try to put it in writing for you. I tend to do a lot better with written communication than speaking, but I appreciate you all being here, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. And yes, here we go. All right, see you all.